Alright, this is part 2 of our videos on polynomial division and synthetic division. In part 1, we looked at longhand division, using longhand division to divide a polynomial here by x minus 1. And we ended up taking that division and using it to factor the polynomial into 3 terms like this. Now we want to look at another way to do this that uses a little less space. And this method is called synthetic division. And synthetic division will basically do what we just did with longhand division, but in a little quicker manner. And this is real useful and what we'll prefer to use when we want to divide or we want to factor. So here we have a polynomial, and x cubed minus 3x squared minus 13x plus 15, and we want to divide it by this polynomial x minus 1. Okay, so to do that, our first step is going to be to copy down the coefficients of our polynomial. 1, negative 3. Actually, let's give it a little bit more space here. We want to kind of space it out because they're not connected. Give it a little bit of room. These are the coefficients of this polynomial. Now, we want to remember that if we're missing a term here, we have x to the third power, x to the second, x to the first, and x to the 0. If we're missing one, then we'd have to have a 0. So for example, if this x term was not here, we would have to put a 0 in its spot. Don't forget that. Our next step is to take the opposite of this factor here. The opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. That is, we can also think of that as the 0 of this, because if this is a factor, then 1 will make this all 0. So we take positive 1, and we're going to put it in a little box over here to the left. Alright, next step we're going to do is we're going to copy down this 1 here, and then we're going to multiply these two numbers here. 1 times 1 is 1. And now, a little different here than longhand division, now we're going to add. So negative 3, we have this negative 3 here, plus 1 is going to give us negative 2. Okay. So again, the basic steps for continue this are to multiply. So we want to multiply and then add. Multiply and add, all right? And so now we're going to multiply 1 times negative 2, and that gives us negative 2. And now we're going to add negative 13 plus negative 2, and that's going to give us negative 15. Next step is to multiply 1 times negative 15, and that's going to give us negative 15. And we add, and we get 0. This right here is our remainder. Now, when this remainder is 0, that tells us that we have found a factor. That tells us that x minus 1 is a factor of this polynomial. Okay? And what we're left with here is this. This represents 1x squared minus 2x minus 15. Notice the degree of this leftover polynomial. This is our quotient, actually. This quotient here has a degree of 1 less than the original polynomial. Okay, so this is the quotient. All right. And so once again, we just found out that this polynomial x cubed minus 3x squared minus 13x plus 15 is equal to x minus 1 times this polynomial right here, 1x squared, we obviously don't need the 1 in front, minus 2x minus 15. And so that is factored. Oh, we're not quite factored yet. We need to factor this part right now. Two numbers that adds a negative 2 and multiply to negative 15 are negative 5 and positive 3. And we have now completely factored this expression. So here is the quotient once again. When we divide, we have the remainder and we have the factored version. And that's how we use synthetic division. One last thing to note here is these numbers right here have a connection to our longhand division, 1, negative 2, negative 15. Those are the numbers right here. We have, well, this, let me erase this. This was our subtraction. It wasn't really a negative there. So we have 1, we have negative 2, and we have negative 15. Actually, to be more accurate here, the one that we have is this one right here. That one, that negative 2, and that negative 15. And we see 1, negative 2, negative 15. So that's kind of shows us the connection between synthetic division and longhand division. So there you have it. Good luck. Now, one last comment is that this is pretty simple because we were using x minus 1. If this was a 2, then these numbers in this row would be different because we'd be multiplying 2 times 1, 2 times negative 2, 2 times. So keep that in mind. All right, good luck.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.